you've seen the issues we have in our borders, and not going into the political madness of this all. But what are the concerns that you're seeing today from your experience and your expertise that the American people, the average person who probably is so far from the border, who does everything they can to just ignore it because the conversation is always an argument? What are some things that you really want to get them to start to understand and know about the severity and the issues that we have on our border?
It's a great question. Great question. First is that they are witnessing the largest U.S. intelligence failure since 9/11, and it is impacting them and their families. What has happened is that the media, through their lack of understanding of what we're up against, look at the border through the lens of immigration. And there's many reasons for that. But as you just, really identified, that is one layer to a multitude of problems that are impacting us. And everything that I'm about and what I'm trying to do is expose what was a national security failure, which today it's gone, it's over. And you're going to hear from a lot of so-called experts that we're dealing with a major national security failure, or problem. National security is over. We opened our borders to the world. We are now in the realm of public safety domestically. And everything I am about now is about illuminating the public safety threat to the American people. And everything we should be doing at local, state, federal, DOD, and U.S. intelligence agencies level is about staying left of boom, because the problem now walks among us. And yes, definitely because of the immigration side, there are multiple layers of, trade craft from spies that have now entered the country. But when you really specialize about what the synergy is that has allowed all of this, while you can blame policy, you can do all of that, we have to look at what has taken place in Mexico with the evolution of these cartels from organized crime in '06 into an insurgency. That insurgency that I lived and breathed up until 2010, where, during the insurgency, we truly saw as the cartels fought back against the Mexican government, leveraging 50 caliber belt-fed machine guns, armored vehicles, first, second generation, and today where we see them in, fourth generation armored cars, the RPGs, light anti-tank weapons, and that trade craft as the Zetas really transformed the capabilities of the cartels throughout Mexico. And then into terrorism from 2010, the killing of innocent men, women, and children from Allende, 72 migrants massacred there, 300 men, women, and children of Allende. I worked all that, Vince. And then where we see them today truly as a parallel government. And what has happened around that is that they have become the nucleus. They are the synergy. And as we opened our borders to the world, what has not been told to the American people, and where I'm so concerned about this, is that you've got long haul smugglers now working side by side with the cartels, who are also working side by side with state and non-state actors globally now. The game has completely changed. Then when you start looking at how they control everything in Mexico with their networks and their alien smuggling organizations and the Halcon network, who then collaborate throughout our nation with US-based street gangs and what we call tier one gangs that impact multiple regions of the state, that is where we are in the national security failure that's now gone, and in the public safety threat. Because as you know, as a former Border Patrol guy better than anybody, if you want to get into the United States, you have to work with one group, and that is the cartels, right? They have operational control of that country, and they own the plazas, which are basically municipalities. And so if we're going to be successful, whether we're talking about stopping immigration, illegal immigration, if we're going to be, stop the deadly fentanyl coming into the country, if we're going to stop high values who are coming and working with them, we have to focus on the cartel specifically and their labs. Otherwise, where we are right now, get ready. If you think it's bad now, this is just the beginning of how bad it could be.
I'm going to back you up for a second because, for me, I understand a lot what you're talking about. I think sometimes the average end user might not. And so I'll ask for a little bit of clarification on a few things. When you say national security failure, can you better explain what that means? And you're saying that the national security is no longer. And then you said now we're focusing on state and local. Well, I don't know how you word it.
Sure. Great question. And I'm glad you asked me to clarify that. When you think of national security nexus, the national security enterprise, what I would call the Homeland Security Enterprise, its role and its function is to prevent the problem from getting here, right? That's the whole goal when you hear national security. We're preventing the issue from getting here. We fight it downrange, not at our borders. And as we open the world up to coming here at our southern border, at our coastal borders, at our northern border, but also what a lot of Americans are not aware of through the CBP One app, We've got them flying in now legally into the United States at airports all over the country. So when you look at the scope of it, that is why I say it's not about national security anymore. It's all about public safety. I mean, look at the young girl that was just killed by a individual who came here illegally from Venezuela. This is a great example of what I'm talking about. Think of all the sexual assaults that are occurring to people right now and women across our country that Americans aren't being told about. DWIs with crashes killing families. This is all going to be illuminated. And for me, everything is about protecting the American people now and realizing that we are in a different world. We are not in the world of talking about national security anymore. We opened it up to the world and the world's problems, and it's here. And it walks among us. And we have to illuminate their operations and what they're doing. That's what I mean when I say that the national security enterprise model has failed us and that we're really witnessing the largest U.S. intelligence failure since 9/11.
In the largest U.S. intelligence failure since 9/11, and that is, you're saying, because the massive influx of immigration that has kind of gone on in the past several years, whatever your case you want to say, but because of some of those outliers don't have good intentions for America. Is that if I worded it?
That's absolutely. So, and I'll give you a great example, and this. What database do we check for Somalians that are coming in?
I have no idea.
We don't have one. Yeah. What database do we check for Uzbekistanis? What database do we check for Chinese? What database doesn't exist? Sure, we have some within the U.S. intelligence agencies where we can do voice recognition, but that's not what Border Patrol checks.
Correct.
You see, this is the story that hasn't been told to the American people. And so we truly open it up. And now that's the immigration side of it, right? Now let's go over to what the cartels are doing and how they move high values and how they coordinate those operations, leveraging the Halcon network all along our border. What do you see at the border? As you know better than anyone, they flood a zone with thousands, hundreds of people at one time, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens upriver and downriver? That's where they then move runners, right? For whatever reason, they can't be in the country, but they move them to confirm that they can get in. Once they get in, then they move drugs, and then they move the high values. Very coordinated operations. And when you peel back that layer, that onion of how coordinated these operations are and how the lifeblood of them leverages, two-way handheld encrypted radios, some of them with global communications, the game has truly changed. And so that's where I'm talking about how we've opened up the border to the world's problems and they now walk among us.
That's heavy.
It is. But, I don't just talk about it, I show it. Matter of fact, I sent you some videos where you can see a video that we broke literally today, this morning, of a Mayo Zambada gunman. What you're seeing is a forward operating base run by Mayo Zambada's faction of the Sinaloa cartel just across from Arivaca, Arizona. It's on the Mexico side, but it's 100 yards from your border. And as you see this video, you see a cartel gunman and you see he's got two AK-47s, but that's not really the important part of this. It's the trade craft. Look at the handheld radio, the lifeblood of the organization. This is how they know when to move product, when the lane is open in the zone, as they call it, where the gate is wide open, because there's no Border Patrol agents, and then they'll move deadly drugs into the country or they'll move bodies. And I've even got video here for you of some of the drugs that they're moving in. And you can see these individuals here who are a part of the organization whose job it is to act as mules to move drugs into the country. If you look at the backpacks, you see the backpacks are square. The reason for that is that in this area, what they'll do is they'll take fentanyl and other controlled substances, they put it in Tupperware bowls, and then they seal it with tape and they stack them. And then they just push them straight down into the backpack, zip it up. That's how you know these are smugglers. I can't tell you what kind of drugs are in there, but I can tell you that those are definitely controlled substances. I've been working it since 1999.
And that's also not going to be your normal marijuana. Those are usually moved in bundles, 100-pound bundles, 90-pound bundles. So anything that's compressed into a small backpack like that most likely is going to be your fentanyl, your oxycodone, whatever it is that they're bringing, but it's going to be most likely a pill form or a powder form, and that means it's a very different drug and a very different danger to the American people.
Absolutely. I mean, look, that area is ground zero for moving in deadly fentanyl into the United States, impacting families all over this country at unprecedented levels.